Using ships in combat is an age-old practice, and the first recorded sea battle was in 1175 BCE between the ancient Egyptians and the mysterious Sea People. Over the years, the art of fighting on the ocean evolved exponentially, creating many different myths and legends, including Greek fire. But World War II took naval warfare to a new level with the addition of submarines, surface warships, and aircraft carriers. Huge warships roamed the ocean, trying to gain the upper hand. Here is our countdown of World War II's 5 most famous warships. Number 5. The KMS Scharnhorst. After World War I, Germany had severe restrictions placed on its naval capabilities. However, after 1935, Germany was granted the right to have a naval equivalent to 35% of the British Navy. This action broke the Treaty of Versailles, but other nations, including Britain, allowed the breach. Of course, now we know that Hitler was secretly building up his forces and armaments far beyond what he publicly admitted. The KMS Scharnhorst was completed in 1939 and was lighter and faster than traditional British warships. She had thick armor and the latest tech, including radar. The Scharnhorst seemed to have everything going for her except one thing. Rumor had it that the ship was damned. During construction, the supporting timbers snapped and the ship rolled onto its side, killing or injuring over 170 shipwrights. It took 3 months to get the boat upright and seaworthy, after which the Scharnhorst snapped her moorings and unexpectedly slid into the harbor at Kiel, obliterating 2 barges. When she finally did see action, one of her guns exploded and killed 9 crewmen, and a further 12 suffocated when the ship's ventilation system failed in one of the turrets. Despite many other incidents, such as being torpedoed near Norway, running into several mines, and spending a great deal of time dry-docked for repairs, the Scharnhorst gained a reputation for being among the most dangerous German warships. The standing prompted decisive action from the British when it was spotted in the Arctic Ocean in late December 1943. The Scharnhorst had set out with a convoy of smaller ships, but lost them due to bad weather and the commander's decision to sail without radar in an attempt to keep their position secret. Admiral Eric Bay had never commanded a ship of this size before, and due to the time of the year, only a skeleton crew was aboard. On the morning of December 26th, the Scharnhorst was detected and identified by the HMS Belfast. The Scharnhorst was attacked, and the radar was partially knocked out. Bay attempted to feign retreat and then turned to attack, but Vice Admiral R.L. Burnett suspected as much and decided to lay a trap, dispatching destroyers to meet the Scharnhorst. Despite trying to flee, the Scharnhorst was hit by shellfire from the HMS Duke of York. The fight lasted all day, but by 8 p.m., the Scharnhorst had sunk. Only 38 crewmen managed to escape from the sinking ship. 36 were hauled from the icy waters by the British, while 2 managed to paddle a raft to a nearby island. However, once the 2 got to shore, a faulty oil heater from the Scharnhorst exploded, killing them both. Number 4. USS Missouri. The USS Missouri, also known as Mighty Mo, first launched in January 1944 from Brooklyn, USA. She was armed with 80 40mm anti-aircraft guns, 49 20mm anti-aircraft guns, 25-inch guns, and 9 6-inch guns. The guns were so powerful that they had a recoil of 4 feet and could fire projectiles up to 24 miles. A year after it was first launched, the Missouri left Pearl Harbor in Hawaii and headed into the Pacific for Japan. During February and early March of 1945, the Missouri provided anti-aircraft defense for carriers striking against Tokyo, supported the invasion of Iwo Jima, and participated in the attack on Okinawa. Throughout March, she protected U.S. aircraft carriers by accompanying them and firing on Japanese aircraft. Towards the end of March, she again headed to Okinawa in preparation for an invasion. In April, the USS Missouri became a target of the Japanese kamikaze pilots. The first occurred at 2:43 p.m. on April 11th. It did not cause much damage to the warship, with most of the wreckage falling into the water. The body of the Japanese pilot was found on deck and was given a military burial at sea under the orders of Captain William M. Callahan. Of all the kamikaze attacks, only one inflicted harm, with 2 sailors injured. By July, the Mighty Mo joined the strikes on industrial targets on the mainland, including Hokkaido, Honshu, and Muroran. After Japan's surrender, the signing of the formal written agreement took place on the deck of the USS Missouri. The Missouri was decommissioned in 1955 after a successful military career. She was recommissioned in 1986, marking her last operational mission in 1991 to commemorate the 50th anniversary of the attack on Pearl Harbor. Number 3. The USS Enterprise. This ship was so notorious that Gene Roddenberry paid tribute to it by naming the fictional starship in his TV series after her. Launching in 1936, the Enterprise was often referred to as the Big E and was one of the only 3 aircraft carriers commissioned before World War II and still afloat afterward. This fact is even more remarkable as she participated in more clashes against Japan than any other ship in the U.S. Navy. On 3 occasions, the Japanese reported that the Enterprise had been sunk, only for her to reappear in battle. The false reports earned the Big E another nickname, the Gray Ghost. During World War II, the Enterprise was awarded more battle stars than any other U.S. ship, earning 20 battle stars and the prestige of being one of the most honored ships in the history of the U.S. Navy. The Enterprise had an auspicious start to the war when she launched airstrikes against the Japanese attackers at Pearl Harbor on December 7, 1941. Throughout the remainder of December, the Enterprise moved west of Hawaii to defend the islands there. In May 1942, the Enterprise moved to Midway with orders to hold the area and inflict as much damage on the enemy as possible. The Battle of Midway began on June 4th, when the Japanese, unaware the U.S. Navy ships were in the area, bombed Midway Island. 3 hours after the attack commenced, the Enterprise retaliated. While the torpedo bombers failed to inflict any damage, the dive bombers managed to sink 4 Japanese carriers, Kaga, Hiryu, Soryu, and Akagi. Despite losing many planes in the ensuing battle, the Enterprise returned to Pearl Harbor undamaged. In July 1942, the Enterprise headed for the South Pacific to assist in the assault on the Solomon Islands. While the Japanese troops heading for Guadalcanal were repelled, the Enterprise sustained serious damage and required a month's repair. She returned with a vengeance in November, helping to sink 16 ships. Towards the end of 1943 and into 1944, the Enterprise helped soldiers land on Makin Atoll, launched strikes on the Marshall Islands and the Caroline Islands, and assisted in attacks on Jeluit Atoll, Emerau Island, and Hollandia, now known as Jayapura. In 1944, the Enterprise also played a part in the battles of the Philippine Sea and Leyte Gulf. After the war, the Enterprise brought about 10,000 soldiers home. She was the only non-Royal Navy ship in over 400 years to be given the British Admiralty pennant as a gift from the British for her service in the war. In 1946, the Enterprise was to be deactivated. The plan was that it would be used as a memorial. However, 8 small nuclear reactors had to be cut out of the ship, and reconstructing the vessel for posterity was deemed too expensive. Instead, the Enterprise was sold to the Lipset Corporation and scrapped in 1960. Number 2. Yamato. Yamato was one of the largest battleships in history, the other being its sister ship, Musashi. It had 9 18.1-inch guns, and each turret weighed roughly the same as one of the American destroyers. Since the Japanese ships did not have to pass through the Panama Canal, they could be much wider than the American vessels, and Yamato was clad in thick armor. Despite its size, Yamato could travel just over 27 knots due to the special design of her hull. A Japanese officer, Naoyoshi Ishida, described the ship's immense size. Inside, there are arrows telling you which direction is the front and which is the back. Otherwise, you can't tell. For a couple of days, I didn't even know how to get back to my own quarters. Other men who served on the ship reported that there was no pitch or roll when they were aboard, and that it was like standing on solid ground. Yamato's construction was kept top secret, and the Americans were completely unaware of her existence when she was commissioned a week after the start of the Pacific War. Being named after an ancient moniker for Japan, the ship was extremely valuable to the Japanese as a symbol. Her symbolism kept the Japanese from using her in battle, as there was too much at risk should she sink. From 1941 to 1943, the Yamato was the flagship of Fleet Commander Isoroku Yamamoto, and upon Yamamoto's death in 1943, she was resigned to defensive duties near Truk. However, this defensive position did not keep her from getting damaged by a torpedo in 1943. While Yamato did see some action during World War II, thankfully, she was never used to her full capabilities. In March 1945, Yamato sustained light damage when she was spotted by U.S. carrier planes. Although she escaped largely intact, it was clear that she was susceptible to air attack. Given her vulnerability and the state of Germany and Japan's war effort, Yamato was given a suicide mission. With 9 other ships, she would sail into the American fleet invading Okinawa. Failing that, Yamato was to beach herself and to be used as a fortress or draw fire from American aircraft to allow kamikaze pilots the chance to fulfill their missions. None of these plans would come to fruition, and the Yamato was sunk on April 7, 1945, after 2 hours of attacks from aircraft, falling bombs, and torpedoes. Once under, she exploded twice. Only 269 of the 3,300-some crew survived. It was not until after the war had ended that the U.S. realized how powerful Yamato had been and how much of a threat she had posed. Had the ship not become such a cultural icon to the Japanese, she might have been used more effectively in battle. Number 1. The Bismarck. The Bismarck was a German vessel launched in 1939. It had 8 15-inch guns, was over 250 meters in length, and could reach a speed of 30 knots, making it the most feared German battleship on the water. The Bismarck represented the Nazis' rise to power, with Hitler commissioning new ships that broke the Treaty of Versailles. It was named after Otto von Bismarck, who unified Germany in 1871 and changed how the world viewed the country. The Bismarck made Britain nervous, as they relied on merchant ships to deliver food and weapons, and a vessel this size and speed could cut off supply lines and push Britain into an early surrender. In May 1941, the Bismarck had its first foray and certainly lived up to its fearsome reputation. After a confrontation with the pride of the Royal Navy, the HMS Hood, the Bismarck obliterated the Hood when a shell hit its main ammunition magazine, and the resulting explosion caused the Hood to sink. Only 3 of its 1,400-some crew survived. The Germans were jubilant that they had managed to scupper such a famous British battleship, but it had put a target on the Bismarck. On May 26th, the British and Polish attacked the Bismarck with aerial and naval forces. A torpedo inflicted damage on the Bismarck's rudder, which meant the huge ship could only go around in circles. The following morning, the HMS Rodney and the HMS King George V opened fire on the Bismarck, taking out its 4 main guns. At this point, the HMS King George V started firing upon the helpless ship. The Norfolk and the Dorsetshire joined the Royal Navy ships, and by 10:40 a.m., the Bismarck had sunk, killing the majority of those on board. Despite its fearsome reputation, the Bismarck only survived for 2 years before it was plunged to the bottom of the eastern Atlantic Ocean. Today, it lies on the south face of an extinct underwater volcano at a depth of about 15,715 feet. How would you like to get a deeper understanding of history, impress your friends, and predict the future more accurately based on past events? If this sounds like something you might be into, then check out the brand new Captivating History Book Club by clicking the first link in the description. To learn more about World War II, check out our book, World War II, A Captivating Guide from Beginning to End. It's available as an ebook, paperback, and audiobook. If you found the video captivating, please hit the like button and subscribe for more videos like this.